My video tutorial on how to make a math practice app using Android Studio. So to make this video very short, we'll just start by creating a new project, and we are going to name this project math practice, or let's make it maybe just math. Yeah, just math will be nice. And then let's click on the next. It's a math practice app, so math, and I'm on a minimum SDK of API 16, that's Jelly Bean. So I have more devices targeted, and we'll click on next. And we're going to use an empty activity, so click on next once more, and we just generate our main activity and main layout. So click on finish, and everything is going to work. So we have gradual building our project, the things you'll need for our project. So it's now building everything up for us, and as you can see, it's running very fast. Can't believe it. Okay, so to start with everything, we'll jump into the layout section, and we are now going to design how we want our layout to look. So let's get rid of this hello world, and as you can see, I'm running Android version 2.3, so I'm having this constraint layout, and let's change it to a relative layout to make everything simple. Okay, so that's relative layout. Okay, so that's relative layout, and now we are going to put these widgets we'll need. Okay, so the first widget we'll need is a text field for our user to enter his or her answer, and want this text field's width to match the parent. So we click over here, and the next thing we'll need is a text view to display the question, and then the last one is a button. Yeah, a button to submit the answer. Okay, so let's get into this text view and make more edits. So let's give this layout a padding of let's say 30 dp, so it pushes everything from the border. Yeah, from the border. So the next thing we'll do is this edit text. Let's remove this word, this text, and instead give it a hint. So the hint will be enter answer, and then let's give it a gravity of center. So as you can see, it's now in the center, and let's make the text bold. So text style, let's make it bold. Okay, so it's bold. So the next thing we'll edit is our question. Let's give it a text size of 24 sp, and let's make it also bold. Okay, so as you can see, it looks very nice. And the last thing we'll edit is the button. Let's make this submit, and then let's let it match the parent. Okay, so it looks pretty nice. So I hope you can hear this noise like a fan. Yeah, that's my PC. It makes a lot of noise these days, and I don't really know why, but I think I can move on with this video because you can hear actually what I'm saying. So I'm sorry for that sound. So now let's change the ID of this edit text to answer, since it's going to contain the answer, and since it's a relative layout, other widgets were placed above and below it, so we have to change that one to answer because it was referencing the ID. Okay, so now we have everything back in place, and this button we would like to keep its ID, and let's change the ID of the text view to question. Okay, so it seems that's what we need here now. So let's move back to our main activity, and what we'll do here is we'll create variables, and we'll reference the variables to the widgets we created in the main activity, so that we can control them or apply changes to them in our Java code. Okay, so we'll need to import a few things. So Android.widgets and then edit text because we're using an edit text, and we also import a text view. So that was a duplicate I just did. Command D on Mac and Control D on Windows actually. Yeah. So now the variables we'll be creating is private edit text, and this edit text is the answer. So let's give it a nice name here, or which is a variable, so answer. Sorry. So Command D, and I have over here text view, capital T. So text view, and I'll name this M. So the text view is the question, so M question. So now that I'm done with this, I'm going to initialize them, initialize them to the widgets. So I'll say M answer equals, so I open parenthesis, and then in here M answer is an edit text, so edit text, then I'll find that view by ID, and the edit text add ID dot, and it's the answer. Yeah, I gave it an ID of answer, so that's the ID. And let me just duplicate this M question, and then it's a text view, and find view by ID, and that's the question. Okay, so now we've had access to these widgets in our layout through JavaScript. So to make sure everything is running perfectly, let's change the question, because right now we have the question hard coded and it's text view or text view. Let's make a question so that it looks somehow nice. Okay, so it's question, so let's change it to something cool using our JavaScript. So M question, type it wrong. Wow. So M question dot set text. So this is how we set text of a text view in Java. Using the Java. So I'll say 4 plus 6. Okay, so now let's run this. Okay, to let you be aware, I have this nice emulator called Genymotion, and I've already run it because it sometimes behaves somehow to me. So Genymotion is faster to run than the normal Android Studio. Yeah, it's faster to run than the normal Android Studio, and everybody is using Genymotion. Okay, so here is it. I have it already run over here, and I'll use the same selection for future launches, and let me run this app. So it will be running in some time to come. So as it's loading over here, I hope you can see it down here in the status bar. Let's do something as it loads. Okay, so now we've just changed the text. Okay, so now let's do something new. Let's look at how our app is going to work. Okay, this is how our app is going to work. It's going to be containing, let's say it's going to be somehow like a game, and it's going to be with maybe a maximum questions of maybe 10 questions, and these 10 questions will always pop over here. So the first one pops, you put an answer and you submit. When the answer is equal to 8, it saves it as correct. Maybe you had it correct or wrong. So at the end of everything, is going to show you the number of answers you had correct and the number of answers you had wrong. So that's a cool app. So whenever the question appears and a user enters an answer, we use the submit, and the submit button is going to call a function which is going to check whether the answer the user input is equal to the question that came. So this submit button has to call a function. So let's do this by calling a function, and the simplest way to do this is using the onClick attribute in the XML code, and let's call this submit here. Submit. Okay, so submit, we called it, and let's get access to this function in our Java code. So let's see, we have a function over here. Okay, is I keep on saying function because of other programming languages like Python, PHP. They all use functions, but this is actually not function. This is a method. Sorry, so it's a method. So the method has to be called. So you can see this is a method which is called whenever the page your activity is created, or let's say the page opens. So we will need to create another function that will be called whenever that button is clicked, and we already named it. So to get access of it over here, let's say public void, and what did we call it? Submit. Okay, submit. And one thing about Android Studio is about these imports. Whenever you don't know what to import, Android Studio has a nice way of guessing what what you need in your code, and it's going to import for you. So over here I won't import, but you see this cool thing. So view. I hope some of you already know it. Okay, so I have my view, so that's the method, and as you can see I need to import something for this. Okay, so I click over here, then I press alt enter, then it gets imported for me. Okay, very cool. So this is the function that will be called whenever the button is clicked. So do something on button click. Okay, so it will do something whenever the button is clicked. Okay, so now our emulator is running. Let's see what came. Okay, so as you can see the question changed to 4 plus 6. Okay, this was what I was trying to show you. So it changed to 4 plus 6, but it will have nothing to do with the answer, and when we click on submit, nothing happens. You see, nothing happens because we are now building the function and everything, the functionality of the app. Okay, so when the button is clicked, it's going to do something. So instead of setting the question like this, okay, so this is the function that will be called whenever the button is clicked. So now we have it down. Let's forget of it for a while and deal with the generation of the question. Okay, so it won't be nice to always call a question like this. The questions will be like fixed. You have questions repeating, always receive 4 plus 2, and that's not nice. That's not a nice way. As a programmer, you have to be smart. So what we'll do is we'll create a method, another method that will be generating our questions. Okay, so to make everything fast, so let's say public void, and the reason why we pass view over here is that this method is from a view. Yeah, so for this one we won't need a view. So let's say set question, because this is the method that will be setting the question. Okay, so set question, and how do we set the question? We will need two numbers. And let's say there will be random numbers. So now we are going to create random values. So to create a random in Java, this is the way we do it. So random, and let me say rand1, rnd1. So this is my first random. So I'll need to import java.util.random. So the same way, alt enter, and you have it over here. Okay, so random rand1, and I'll set it equal to a new random object. Oh, that has to be a capital. Set it to a new random object, and I'll pass nothing. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is I'll get my random number from this random object. So I'll say int number1. So that's my first number. It's an int. Then I'll set it equal to rand1, this random we are generating. So rand1 dot next int, because yeah, so dot next int, and in here what we can pass here is the range we want our random number to be generated from. So I'm making this a range of between 0 to 20. So I'll just pass in 20. So we'll be getting random numbers from 0 to 20. So that's my first random number. And one thing is that if I just do let's say if I just do maybe in 2, equals round 1, and I just do like this, what's going to happen is it's not going to actually work for me. All it's going to do is, let's say after generating this random number, it had number 1 to be 5, then it's automatically going to set number 2 to the next integer, so it will make number 2 6. So if this 5, this will be 6, so that will be somehow a boring app. So what we'll have to do is generate another random number for our next number, for our next number in the question. So just change this to 2 2 2. Okay, so now we have our two what do we call it, we have our two numbers that will be over here. Okay, so we have our two numbers generated. So let's see what we can do. Let's now try and bring them over here. So we'll say m question dot set text, and we'll be setting the text to these numbers. So we'll call num1, then we'll concatenate. So we will need a space between them, and this space will contain a positive sign. And let's concatenate the num2. If you don't know concatenations, you should go back and learn Java. So that's how we concatenate in Java, the same as JavaScript. Okay, so now let's run this. No, when we run it, nothing is actually going to happen because this function hasn't been called anywhere. So we will need this function to be called whenever this page is created or loaded. Okay, so let's say set question. Okay, so this function has been called. So whenever we open this activity or page, it comes here. Then after getting access to these views, it calls this set question, and it jumps over here. Then it goes through here, then it gets two random numbers generated, then it set the question to the random numbers. So now we can run our app and see what's going to happen. So when we run it, we have 4 and 6 right now. So let's wait a while and see what's really going to happen. 4 and 6, whether it's going to change or not. Okay, so that's what we are waiting for. Gradual build. My gradual is delaying, so it's indexing now, installing APK. I thought it was going to hot swap. Oh my god, I'm going to install the APK once again. Okay, so let's continue, and as we wait for the results, let's continue. So now we have the functionality of how to set the question. So we have something that's going to always set this question for us. It's always going to set this question for us, automatically generate random numbers. So what we'll do is, how do we get to know the answer as the question is generated? How do we get to know the answer as the question is generated, so that we can compare it to what the user also what the user types? So as you can see, this is addition. The question is in addition. So let's make a variable called answer, and to be able to access this variable outside this method, we'll make it a global variable. So let's declare it over here. So we'll call int the question's answer. So let's say qAns. So that's the question's answer. Oh, this naming looks very boring, so why don't I make this okay, so we have cans, so question answer. Yeah, so that's the question's answer. And over here we'll set it equal to, we'll set it equal to num1 plus num2. Okay, so we set it equal to num1 plus num2. Okay, as you can see over here, that's our answer. So this will be our answer. And okay, let's pause over here and check what happened. Okay, so we have 4 and a 1. 4 and a 1. So when we run it again, it's actually going to change. So let me run it once again. This 4 and a 1 will change because we will have random numbers being generated. Okay, so let's continue. So we have this answer. right here. So we have the answer of the random numbers generated. So now the next thing we'll do is we'll need to get what the user enters. And how to do this, we will get what the user enters whenever the button is clicked. Okay, so let's do something in when this button is clicked. So let's create a variable. So this variable will be an integer because our answer is an integer. We have to compare an integer with an integer. So we will say integer user answer. So users answer, so that's the integer. Users answer is equal to, now we need to get text from this edit text. So we'll say m answer dot get text, and whenever you get a text you can change it to a string. So I'll change it to a string. So now it's a string, not an integer. So I'm trying to set an integer to a string. So look at the error, it requires an integer but I'm giving it a string. So how do we do this? We have to change this whole thing into an integer. So we have a simple way of doing this by passing it into this integer dot parse int. So we put everything over here into that parenthesis. Okay, and we have this solve. So it's now solved. So now this is the user's answer, and now what we are going to do is we are going to compare the user's answer to the question's answer. So for here we will be using an if else statement. So let's start very fast. So we will say if question's answer is equal to user's answer, do something, else if it's not equal, do something. Okay, so let's make this simple thing. So when it's equal, we will be having it too. So as you can see, I round it again and the number changed once again. Okay, so what we are going to do is whenever the answer is correct, we are going to have this simple toast message over here that will say correct. And I hope you know what a toast message is. Even if you don't know, you've seen it before, but you don't know, it's called a toast. Okay, so we have it over here that will say correct, and whenever it's wrong, another one to say wrong. So how do we make this toast message? We say toast dot make test, and here we will be passing three parameters. The first parameter is the context. So I'll pass main activity dot this, and then the message I want to broadcast. So if it's equal, I'll say correct, and the last thing is the duration, the time I want this to last. So I have toast dot length short, and now we have to show our toast. So I'll say show and then close. Okay, I end the line. Okay, so this will give us a toast message whenever the answer is correct, and let me create a similar thing whenever the answer is wrong. Okay, so I'll just change this to wrong. Yeah, and now let's run this app from where we've reached to see whether it's running actually how we want it to run, because this is going to be 1-0. So it hot swap this time, it hot swap the changes this time. So let's enter 3 plus 2. Okay, it just changed the question. Okay, so now let's start. 14 plus a 17. 14 plus a 17. So we are actually going to, so you have 14 plus a 10, that's a 24, plus a 7, so that's a 31. So let's enter 31, submit, and we have it correct. I don't know why the question didn't change, but I've actually figured why the question didn't change. So let's click it once again and we still have correct. So the reason with which the question didn't change is that we are setting the question to new variables whenever this activity is created. So when it's created and this question has been changed, it's not changed again. So what we are going to do is we are going to change this text once again whenever the button is clicked and our broadcast has been shown to us whether it's correct or wrong. So we'll call it at the end of this function that's called whenever the button is clicked. and we'll say set question. Okay, so cool, let's run it once again, and for this time it's actually going to work how we expect it to. So gradual build and it's hot swapping changes, so we'll have everything run in a second. So apply changes. So now let's see, 13 plus 1 is a 14. We submit and it's correct, and as you can see the question changed. So 15 plus 14, let's leave it as a 14 and see whether we're going to get wrong. Okay, so it's wrong and that's working. So 17 plus 2 is a 19, correct. 18 plus 15 is never a 1, but okay, wrong. Okay, so we have our app running, it's working very well. So this app is like an infinite math practice app, it's never going to end. So now let's try and make this app end. Okay, so now what we are going to do to make this app end, we are going to create a variable known as attempts, so that it will allow us play this practice maybe just 5 times. Let's make it 5 times. So now I'll declare this variable over here. Now call it attempts. So I'll call this variable attempts, and the next thing I would like to do is I'll create another variable that will hold the number of answers we had correct and the number of answers we had wrong. So I'll say int correct and then int wrongs. Okay, so this is very simple. We are going to increase the number of corrects whenever the message toasts a correct. So let's say corrects plus plus. Let's first instantiate this correct and set them equal to 0, correct and wrong 0, and let's set this attempt also to 0. Okay, so we are increasing the corrects over here, and then we'll also increase the wrongs over here. Okay, so whenever we have a correct will be increased. Whenever we have a wrong will be increased. So now what we're going to do is this app is going to run for 5 attempts. So after this 5 attempts, we are going to be shown the number of questions we had correct and the number of questions we had wrong. Okay, so now attempts, whenever this button is clicked and everything runs, we are going to increase attempts by 1. Yeah, we are going to increase attempts by 1. And now let's see a nice way of doing this. So let's just increase it over here and also increase it over here. Okay, so let's say if, so whenever this button is clicked, the first thing to check is the attempts. So if attempts is greater than or equal to 5, then we are still, if it's greater than or equal to 5, then it means we have to end the game. So let's say end the game, and practice also, but we can call it a game because we have so many games that work just like this. And then when the attempts else, if it is not greater or equal to 5, then we can still play. So we would like to put all this code over here. So let's put all this code. I'm just going to cut it and paste it over here. And now let's, you see uns is now below this, so it's telling me the variable can be found. So let me once again place it on top of it. Okay, so on top of the else statement, I have my user's answer fetched over here. And now we have whenever the attempt is not greater or equal to 5, the game still runs, but when it is, we are going to end the game. So how do we end the game? So let's see a simple thing. So when it is greater than or equal to 5, you are going to display the number of correct and the number of wrong. So let's say corrects and wrongs. So let's concatenate these. So let's say correct and then wrongs. Okay, so after the corrects and wrongs have been displayed, we would like to uh, reset our, so let's make this one display for a long time. So let's set the length to long. So after this, we will have to reset our game. So we will set the attempts back to 0, corrects back to 0, and everything back to 0. So attempts equals 0. So why don't I just copy this whole code and then paste it right here. Okay, so I don't have to declare them once again. Okay, so this is very nice, and let's run this app and see what is going to happen. So I hope you can still hear the noise of my MacBook Pro. I just don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm using it too much, that's why it's making all this noise, because I really use it 24/7, always beside my laptop, because as a programmer you have to always be working so that you can improve upon your skill. So it's installing the app, it didn't hot swap it, so we have 1602. It's going to change in some minute time. So it's now launching instant run activity, launching the activity. So our activity has been closed and it's going to be launched for us to see what's going to happen. Okay, so it got launched and the first question is 17 plus 2 and it's a 19. Okay, so 19, we have a correct. 4 plus 2 is a 6, but let's make it a 9 so that we get it wrong. Okay, 17 plus 15. 17 plus 15, so that's a 30 33 if I'm wrong. So 33, click on submit. I'm wrong. Wow, I really suck in math. Okay, so we have 2 wrongs, 1 correct. 2 wrongs, 1 correct, and this has to be a 32. Okay, so you're correct. 2 correct, 2 wrongs. So 12 and a 10, let's leave it as 32 and get it wrong. So we have it wrong, and 16 plus, let's leave it like that and still get it wrong. So we have the correct to be 2 and wrongs to be 3. I hope you saw it. So this game ran 5 times, and then we have the correct to be 3 and the wrongs to be 2. So I hope you saw it. So now everything has been reset and this game will start again. So to show you how good I am in math, I'm going to get everything correct once again. So 17, 4, 4, and this is a 5, and this is a 16, and this is a 26, and this is a 20. So you see, I had everything correct and nothing wrong. So the game is running very nice. Okay, so that's a bunch of code, and that was what it was able to do. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create a new activity or a new page that whenever we get after our game, we are going to be directed over there and we'll be shown our score. So we'll be shown our score, and after this video, if I'm available, I'm really going to show you how to keep high score of your game, or practice app should I call it, how to keep high score. So now what we're going to do is create a new activity. So to create a new activity, although we have the layouts over here, let's create it over here from the main Java. So let's say activity and an empty activity, and let's name this score. Okay, so we'll have a layout generated for us. So now let me move all my Java files to the left and all my layouts to the right. So this is the score.java. So the layout, let's first start with the scores layout. So let's change this one also to a relative layout. So we've changed it to a relative layout, and let's first add a text view which will say maybe score here. So it will just display by saying score. So let me change this to score, and let me increase the size, so text size, and let's make it a 26 sp, very huge, and let's make it bold. Okay, so it's now bold. And the next thing we'll do is I want to teach you maybe how to add another layout in the layout. So let's add a linear layout. So one thing is that this linear layout, as you can see, we have the items arranged horizontally, and this one have the items arranged vertically. But actually, if you want to arrange your things vertically, you go for this, and when you want to arrange your things horizontally, you go for this. It really makes sense, but visually not. Okay, so not to explain much about this, let's just drag this over here a little bit below the score. Okay, so we have our layout, and we'll need two text fields, a view text, not text fields, rather two view text views to view our score. So we have the first text view, and let's add another one below it. Okay, so now let's edit this, not this. The first thing I'll do is add a padding, just like our main activity. So I'll add a padding of 30 dp rather, and now let's come to this text view. Let's say this one will take our correct here, and the next one will show us our wrongs, and let's give both of them a text size of 20 sp, and then not font style, text style, HTML. Okay, so font style of bold. So let me just copy this and then paste it over here, and let's change the ID to correct ans, and then this to wrong ans. Okay, so now our page looks very nice. So let's push these wrongs a little bit below. So let's give it a margin top of 20 dp. Okay, so we have our score layout looking very nice, and what we are going to do now is, okay, now let's come over here. So now what we are going to do is, whenever we get over here, we are not going to show this toast anymore, because we are going to be transferring our answers to another activity, and to do this we need something called an intent. So let's create this intent below here. So let's say intent, and let's name this intent. So I'll just import it, intent I equals new intent, and it takes two parameters. The first parameter is the context, and the second parameter is the page, or the next parameter is the activity we want to go to. So I'll put my context as main activity.this, and that page I'll rather pass score.class, because score is a class that has its content view set to this view, because I can't just get access to this view, but I have to through this Java class. So I'll pass score.class. Okay, so I'll end the line. So that's the intent, and what we are going to do is we are passing the number of corrects and the number of wrongs to the next page. So we have a simple way of doing this by putting extra information or extra data to through our intent to the order. So we will say we call this I dot put extra. So with this extra, it also takes two parameters. One is a specific key which will help us get access to the value we passed. That key has to be unique. So let's see how we do this. Most people do this by using their package name, and that's what I'm going to actually do. So I'll pass my package name as the key, then I'll add correct, because that's going to send the number of corrects. So that's the first parameter, and the second parameter, you see we can input a boolean character integer, so it's an integer and it's called corrects. So now, as you can see, I'm really making an error over here, because as the code gets here, correct has been set to 0, so always we'll be getting 0. So what we have to do is place this rather below our intent we are creating. Okay, so now after the intent it will be set to 0, so that's good. So let's continue with our intent. So we can just duplicate this and change this to wrongs, and let's pass the value for wrongs. Okay, so now we've put our extra. The next thing is to send the user from this page to the other page. So we'll do this by saying start the other activity. So start activity I. So start activity, and we'll pass this intent. So that's it, we are done. So we'll always be sent to the other page. Now what we are going to do is we will need access to these variables in the other page. So now let's do it very fast before we test. And now what we're going to do is we are going to need access to these two text views we created, and they have an ID of correct ans and wrong ans. So let's come in this Java file. So we won't just instantiate it over there, we can just do everything over here. So let's say okay, let me start. So private text view and I'll call this correct ans, and I'll duplicate it, then I'll call this wrong ans, and then I'll get access to them over here whenever the page is created. So I'll say correct ans equals, so text view, then I'll find this view by ID, and I'll say r dot id dot, and we have it being correct ans. So correct ans, that's the ID. Then I duplicate this wrong ans, then I'll set the ID to wrong ans. So now the next thing we are going to do is get the information passed by the intent. So I'll say intent, and we are getting this intent has to be a capital, so we have to import. So then I'll say intent get info, so that's how I'll name the intent. Get info equals get intent, so it's going to get the intent that has been sent over here. Then after getting the intent, I'll make an integer called let's make it C for correct. So integer C is equal to get info dot. So after passing get info dot, then we'll say get integer extra. So get integer extra, so the extra was an integer. So this also takes two parameters. the string we passed, that was the specific ID we passed. So this is it. So that's for the correct. And the next parameter is the default value that should be set if the intent doesn't contain this information we need. So you just pass 0, and let's duplicate this and make this W for wrong. Let's change this to wrongs, and that's a 0. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to set the correct answers and the wrong answers to this value. So we'll say correct answer dot set text. And one thing is that when we set the text to these integers, everything we typed over here, that's the correct, will be cleaned and that integer will display. So let's rewrite this correct in our Java. So let's say correct, and then let's concatenate C. Let's duplicate this, call this wrongs, then let's concatenate W. Don't forget this is wrong ans. Okay, so it seems we have gone so far. Let's rerun this app, and actually we're going to see the magic. It's really going to work as we expected. So main activity. So gradual is building, and let's wait for a while, a few seconds more, and we have it indexing and installing the APK, and after that it's going to launch the activity for us. So let's wait a while and we'll have this app running in a second. Oh, wow, this is really delaying. Okay, it's really delaying. So as we are waiting for this emulator, should we do something? Let me just clean this comment I wrote over here. So it's launching the activity, as you can see, and after that we can visit our app. Okay, so as you can see, it asks of 4 plus 18, and that's a 22. So I have one correct. 16 plus 2 is an 18. I have 2 correct. Now what do you think if I get the remaining 3 correct? Wrong. So wrong, wrong, wrong. And as you can see, now we have answered 5 questions, but I'm still waiting because the button hasn't been clicked. So when the button is clicked, it will see that, oh, attempts is now 5, then it will send us to the page. Okay, so we had 2 correct and 2 wrong. Okay, so let's try and fix this by changing this 4 from 5 to 4, and let's remove this equal to sign. So let's run it once again, and our app is done. Okay, so whenever attempts is greater than 4, okay, changes have been applied. I press on the back button and we get the chance to play our game. So let's say 5, sorry, that's a 7, and this is a 23, and this is so 25, this is 31, and this is 8, and 13 plus 9 is a 22. 5 plus 9 is a 14. Wow. So I had 5 correct, 0 wrong. Okay, so thank you for staying all this time and impacting this knowledge and getting to know how to make this cool app. And if I'll make another video, I'm going to show you, maybe I'm going to style or maybe design our user interface of this app, let it look nicer, and after that I'm going to teach you how to keep high scores. so that whenever a user is able to get a score greater than that, you can change the high score. Okay, and now one thing is that I would like to give you an assignment. So I want you to recreate this app, but this time you are going to create an edit text that whenever the user is about to run the app, he'll be asked the range he wants his questions to be set. So maybe he wants his questions to be set from 0 to 30 or 0 to 100, and you're going to apply it right over here. So this was generating 0 to 20, so you have to make the user able to choose. So that's the assignment I have for you, and thank you for watching my video, and see you on my other videos, and please watch my other videos. By the way, I'm a 16-year boy in high school, and I'm a science student. I'm learning general science, chemistry, physics, biology. I have nothing to do with computer programming, but it seems I have this interest for it, and for where I live there's no school teaching it, so I decided to teach myself by reading books, and it seems now I'm making it because I'm now a web developer, Android app developer, and now I'm learning how to develop games using Unity, and I'm progressing. So please like and subscribe to my channel. Please, that's what I'm asking of you. And watch out for my other videos. I love you. See you all. And if you have any support for me, you can help because we all need support.